Maybe there's something I didn't think was necessary to tell you.
Pernell Roberts, who played Adam Cartwright on Bonanza, seemed like the perfect gentleman, cool, sure of himself, and full of charm. This man seemed calm on the outside, but inside he was truly determined. Someone who never thought twice about saying what they thought, no matter what. At the time, most Hollywood stars played it safe by hiding their feelings and keeping their tongues shut. But Pernell went against the grain. He thought being honest was more important than being popular, even if it meant losing friends, jobs, and respect in the business. It was clear to him at many Hollywood events that there were some people he just couldn't stand. Actors whose pride, deceit, or lack of honesty went against the values he held dear. Today we'll talk about the 5 names at the top of that secret list and the shocking stories behind each fight. You'll never see these stars the same way again after hearing them. Before we start, please subscribe to our channel if you like Pernell Roberts or old Western stories. The truth about Hollywood's golden age is much more interesting than the fiction that sold it. Pernell Elvin Roberts Jr. was born on May 18, 1928 in Waycross, Georgia, a small town in the Deep South that was quiet at the time. Life there was not easy during the Great Depression. He was the only child of Pernell Roberts Sr., who worked hard as a sales manager for Dr. Pepper, and Minnie Myrtle Morgan Roberts, who loved him and encouraged his early creativity and interest. He stood out even when he was a boy. Like most kids his age, he wasn't interested in sports or getting into trouble. He instead found happiness in music and theater, like when he played the horn in school band and put on shows at church. But playing wasn't in his plans, at least not at first, even though he was naturally good on stage. He went to Georgia Tech after high school with the goal of getting a job as an engineer, but it didn't take him long to figure out that his heart wasn't in plans and equations. In 1946, he joined the U.S. Marine Corps and did 2 years of service for his country. Even though he was in the military and had to follow strict rules, he found comfort in the familiar beat of music. He kept his artistic spirit alive by playing the tuba and horn in the Marine Corps band. Pernell chose to take a risk when his service was over. He went to college at the University of Maryland, but the stage called to him again. By getting involved in student theater, he found a deeper link to acting that made it feel less like a hobby and more like his calling. Soon Roberts made the brave decision to quit college and follow his dream full-time. He began the thrilling but uncertain journey that would make him one of TV's most recognizable stars. In the early 1950s, Pernell Roberts packed up his hopes and dreams and moved to New York City, where hard work and talent were often the only things that counted. He then went to the famous American Academy of Dramatic Arts to improve his skills while working a bunch of odd jobs to pay the bills. Pernell never gave up, even when things got hard. In 1952, his hard work paid off when he got his first stage part in The Man Who Came to Dinner. Even though it was a small part, it was the first real step in an amazing and sometimes risque playing career. Not because he was famous, but because he wouldn't follow anyone else's plans for his life. Once Pernell had his first taste of fame, he put all of his hard work into theater. His strong voice, charisma, and commitment to every part made him stand out right away. He soon found himself in some of the best plays ever written. Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew and Romeo and Juliet. It was his work with the New York Shakespeare Festival that made him known as a serious, emotional actor whose depth could make a room silent. Hollywood started to pay attention in the late 1950s. In 1958, Pernell made his movie debut in Desire Under the Elms, which starred Sophia Loren and Burr Lives. It was a performance that showed he could hold his own with the biggest names in the business. In the same year, he was in the western The Sheepman, which was a sign of the type of movie that would soon shape his life. He got parts in hit TV shows like The Virginia and Gunsmoke over the next year, which slowly spread his name in the business. Then 1959 came along and changed everything. On NBC's Bonanza, Pernell Roberts was cast as Adam Cartwright, the oldest boy who is smart and brave. The show became one of the biggest hits on TV, and Roberts became a common name almost overnight. People all over the world watched every week as the Cartwright family went on adventures on the Ponderosa Ranch, and among them, Pernell's quiet power and sharp mind were the ones that stood out. But despite his fame and respect, Roberts felt a strange disconnect. He had a growing feeling that the role he was praised for didn't really show who he was on the inside. When something didn't feel right, Pernell Roberts never kept quiet. On Bonanza, that made people both fear and admire him. He was often at odds with the show's makers because he didn't like what he thought was weak writing and how his character, Adam Cartwright, didn't have much depth. Roberts thought that the show was very popular, but it didn't have much to do with society or art. In 1965, after 6 great seasons and when he was at the top of his game, he made a choice that shocked everyone. He left. A lot of people thought it would be the end of his journey. Pernell wasn't scared to start over, though. He went back to his first love, theater, while also appearing in guest parts on several TV shows. Willing to start over with his job the way he saw fit. His determination paid off in the end. By the late 1970s he had landed the lead part in Trapper John MD, which made him famous to a whole new generation of people. Even though Pernell spoke calmly and looked deeply into his eyes, he had strong feelings, especially about some of the people he worked with. Now we get to the part of his story that not many people have heard. The 5 stars that Pernell Roberts really couldn't stand, along with the strange reasons why they were fights. You will never look at these Hollywood stars the same way again after hearing these songs. First place goes to Michael Landon. At first Robert was polite and even friendly with Bonanza's youngest star. As Landon's ambitions grew, though, so did the tension between them. Landon was quickly becoming the show's golden boy, loved by fans and full of charm. But Robert saw him differently behind the scenes. Cunning, self-centered and control freaks. That argument ended any hope of friendship between them. Afterward, Roberts privately referred to Connors as all hat, no soul, a man polished on the outside but empty where it mattered. To Roberts, Connors symbolized the very worst of Hollywood: charm for the cameras, cruelty for everyone else. Of all Roberts' conflicts, none cut deeper than the one involving the man who played his television father, Ben Cartwright. To millions of viewers, their on-screen bond looked warm, loving, and genuine. Behind the scenes, it was far more complicated. Roberts often said the relationship felt confining. Green, both on and off the set, carried an air of authority that Pernell found suffocating. Roberts resented that Green embraced the show's predictable formula, the neat resolutions, the moral simplicity, the refusal to address deeper themes. While Roberts longed for episodes anchored in realism, nuance and social relevance, Green fully supported the network's safe, conservative direction. To Roberts, that wasn't professionalism, it was complacency. As he once confided to a friend, Green chose comfort over courage. What began as creative tension slowly turned personal. Roberts believed Green saw him as a threat, a younger actor unafraid to challenge scripts or question decisions. The atmosphere between them grew icier each season. Roberts disliked how Green's authority shaped the cast, especially the younger performers, who followed Green's lead without hesitation. By 1965, Roberts had reached his breaking point. He walked away from Bonanza, and from one of the most lucrative salaries on television, choosing artistic integrity over staying safe. When asked why he left, Pernell offered a blunt reply that became legendary: "I just couldn't spend the rest of my life taking my hat off and saying, 'Yes, Pa.'" To the public, Lorne Greene was the comforting patriarch of America's favorite TV family. But to Pernell, he represented everything he despised about Hollywood's unwillingness to take risks. Where others saw warmth, Roberts saw stagnation, a man content to keep things exactly as they were. James Drury, the stoic lead of the Virginian, clashed with Roberts not over ego or fame, but over values. Pernell was outspoken about the causes he believed in. He condemned racism, criticized the Vietnam War, and accused Hollywood of silencing actors who dared to speak out. Drury, a firm conservative, argued that politics had no place in entertainment. Their ideological collision erupted publicly in the 1970s during a televised panel discussing the future of TV. Roberts passionately condemned networks for sanitizing westerns into comfortable feel-good entertainment. Drury fired back without hesitation: "The public doesn't want sermons." According to those in attendance, the discussion quickly turned personal. When the program ended, the two refused to shake hands. Later, Roberts confided to a close friend that Drury was never just an actor, he was a megaphone for the status quo. What angered him most was Drury's silence during the civil rights movement, a time when a well-known figure could have made a difference. To Roberts, saying nothing in the face of injustice wasn't neutrality, it was betrayal. Through all of this, Pernell remained true to himself. He was uncompromising, principled, and willing to sacrifice comfort for honesty. Yet the public rarely saw the private cost behind that steel backbone. His personal life was fraught, marked by heartbreak, loneliness, and the emotional burden carried by a man who demanded as much truth from himself as he did from the world. Pernell's personal journey was every bit as turbulent as his career. He married 4 times. His first marriage to theater professor Vera in 1951 produced his only child, Jonathan Christopher Roberts. Although he loved his son deeply, his restless spirit and rising career made it difficult for him to fully anchor himself in family life. The marriage ended in 1959. Though Pernell remained in Jonathan's life, emotional distance often complicated their bond. His next 2 marriages, to Judith Anna Lebrecq and later to Cara Nack, also dissolved. Those close to him often said Pernell cherished freedom above all else and struggled with deep emotional intimacy. Reserved by nature, he kept the most painful parts of himself hidden, unintentionally creating distance between himself and the people who cared about him. Tragedy struck hardest in 1989, when Jonathan died in a motorcycle accident at the age of 38. The loss devastated Pernell. Friends said he was never entirely the same again. Though he rarely spoke of it publicly, the grief became a shadow he carried for the rest of his life. On his later years, Pernell found comfort with his 4th wife, Eleanor Criswell, whom he married in 1997. She remained by his side until his death, bringing him a measure of peace after decades of turmoil. Still, the echoes of past heartbreaks, failed marriages, and the unbearable pain of losing a child never truly disappeared. Away from the screen, Roberts' life was a mosaic of quiet battles, private sorrows, and unwavering principles. After leaving Bonanza at the height of its popularity, he continued acting on his own terms, finding renewed success in the 1980s with Trapper John, Maryland. There he won over a new generation with his powerful performances and commanding presence. Even as fame followed him, he resisted the trappings of celebrity. He avoided fan conventions, declined interviews, and preferred a life centered on music, activism, and close friends. Behind the privacy and independence was a silent struggle with cancer. On January 24, 2010, Pernell Roberts died at his home in Malibu at age 81, after battling pancreatic cancer with quiet courage. His passing marked the end of an era, as he was the last surviving member of Bonanza's original cast. Though he never chased fame or bent to Hollywood's demands, Roberts' influence on television was profound. He was one of the few actors willing to walk away from a hit series because it no longer aligned with his values. Decades before such decisions became celebrated, Roberts protested racial inequity, demanded authenticity in storytelling, and refused to remain silent on social issues. Fans remember him not only as the steadfast Adam Cartwright, but as a man of unshakable conviction. His legacy lies in the choices he made, the courage to speak up, the bravery to stand alone, and the strength to walk away. By the time of his death, he left behind not only memories, but also an estate estimated at $10 million. It would seem like a triumphant Hollywood ending, but for Pernell, wealth and fame never held much meaning. Even during the height of Bonanza, when he earned nearly $10,000 an episode, an enormous salary at the time, he felt an inner restlessness. The spotlight never satisfied him. He longed for depth and authenticity. To fans, he was a polished performer on a beloved series. But behind the scenes, Roberts bristled at the way art was packaged for mass consumption. He despised how genuine emotion was molded into predictable formulas. He didn't want to play the part of a celebrity, he wanted a life rooted in truth and principle. For a while he played along. He donned the costume, said the lines, and accepted the applause. But his conscience wouldn't let him stay silent. While his colleagues remained comfortable, Roberts marched alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Selma, not as a television star, but as a man driven by justice. That was the real Pernell. Back on set, he challenged the status quo, questioning why diverse actors weren't hired, why white performers were repeatedly cast as Native Americans, and why the industry moved at a glacial pace toward fairness. His protest rarely changed anything, but he refused to stop fighting. Pernell Roberts could easily have stayed on Bonanza, built an empire, and basked in eternal fame, but he chose conviction over applause, truth over comfort. In the end, his legacy isn't simply about the roles he played, it's about the stands he took.